Hello everyone, and welcome to our learning series. In today's session, we are reviewing our new AR workflows and AI agent feature. Managing accounts receivable is one of the most important responsibilities in any organization. The longer invoices remain unpaid, the greater the impact on cash flow and the more time your staff must spend following up with customers. In this session, we're going to review how AR workflows can help automate and standardize your collection process. We'll discuss workflow design, collection strategies, workflow management, and how AI agent can help automate customer follow-up activities. By the end of this session, you'll understand how to build an effective collection process using AR workflows and how to leverage automation to reduce administrative effort while improving visibility into your outstanding receivables. Before we begin today's session, let's review a few housekeeping items. All attendees have been muted during today's session to cut down on background noise. Your videos are automatically turned off during the session to avoid any distractions. And this session's recording will be available via our PSA Help Library in addition to our company's YouTube channel. Any questions you have during today's session will need to be directed to our PSA support team, which can be reached at support@canamsys.com. In today's session, we'll look at why collections matter. We'll look at the AR workflows, how to set them up, and best practices, how to build a collection strategy, managing your due workflows, those exception managements, our AI agent, and we'll follow up with some wrap-ups and recommendations. Every business depends on cash flow. The work may be completed, products may be delivered, and invoices may be sent. But until payment is received, the revenue has not yet been turned into cash in the bank. When invoices remain unpaid, it can impact many areas of the business. Companies still need to pay employees, vendors, equipment costs, and other operating expenses, regardless of whether the customers have paid their invoices. As outstanding receivables grow, businesses often spend more time chasing payments and less time focusing on growth and customer service. The goal of an effective collection process is not simply to collect overdue invoices, it's to improve cash flow, reduce risk, and create a consistent customer experience while minimizing administrative effort. This is where AR workflows can help. Before we jump into the software, let's talk about the challenges many organizations face when managing accounts receivable. In a traditional collection process, staff often review aging reports manually. They identify overdue invoices, send reminder emails, and track customer responses through log notes or spreadsheets. This approach creates several challenges. Invoices can be overlooked. Collection efforts may vary depending on who is responsible for follow-up. Customer communication history may be difficult to track. And as invoice volume grows, the amount of administrative work increases significantly. The result is often slower collections, inconsistent follow-up, and increased pressure on cash flow. AR workflows help solve these problems by automating many of the repetitive tasks involved in collections. Instead of manually reviewing invoices every day, the system continuously evaluates invoices and determines when customer communication should occur. Workflow emails can be generated automatically, collection activity is tracked, and your team can focus their attention on invoices that truly require intervention. Let's take a look at the life cycle of an AR workflow. An invoice is created. The workflow engine evaluates the invoice against the workflow rules you've configured. When a workflow becomes due, a communication can be generated. As additional workflow milestones are reached, additional reminders or escalation steps may occur. Once the invoice is paid, the workflow is automatically completed. However, not every invoice follows the same path. Some invoices may require additional collection activities. Invoices can be moved into collection status, in legal, or even a payment plan status. These statuses help organizations manage invoices requiring special handling while preventing additional workflow communications from being generated. As we move through today's session, you'll see how these statuses fit into your collections process. Let's begin by creating a workflow. We're going to navigate to Preferences, Company Preference, and Workflow Setup. This screen is where all workflow templates are configured. Each workflow represents a collection event that can occur based on invoice dates or invoice due dates and other criteria. For this example, I'm going to create a workflow called 15-day past due reminder. The first setting we're going to review is our starting trigger. We have two options, invoice date and invoice due date. The trigger type determines which date the system uses as the starting point when calculating when a workflow is triggered. If you select invoice date, the workflow timing will be based on the invoice date. If you select invoice due date, the workflow timing will be based on the invoice due date. For example, if a workflow is configured for 15 days, the system will trigger the workflow 15 days after the selected trigger date. Likewise, if a workflow is configured for -7 days, the workflow will trigger 7 days before the selected trigger date. The important thing to remember is that both options function exactly the same way. The only difference is which date the system uses as the starting point for the calculation. In our example today, we're going to use the invoice due date. Next is our due days. This controls when the workflow becomes active. Positive values indicate days after the selected trigger date. Negative values indicate days before the selected trigger date. Example, -7 could be used as a courtesy reminder before an invoice becomes due, where 15 could be used as a reminder that the invoice is now 15 days past due. And then 30 could be used as an escalation notice. This flexibility allows you to design a complete collection process. Now let's talk about the ending trigger. The ending trigger is invoice paid. This is an invoice status, and this status can only be reached when the invoice balance due is $0. Next is our minimum amount. This setting prevents workflows from triggering for smaller invoices. For example, if your company doesn't want collection notices sent for invoices under $100, you can specify that minimum amount. It's important to note that this setting evaluates the invoice total and not the remaining balance due. The priority determines the order the workflow items appear in the dues workflow screen. A lower priority number, such as 1, is the highest priority and will appear first in the list. This can be useful when multiple workflows are due at the same time. Additionally, we have the previous workflow. This allows multiple workflows to be linked together. For example, our first workflow would be 7-day reminder, and then the next would be a 15-day reminder, and finally the 30-day reminder. To link this 15-day past due reminder to my previous workflow, I'll select the workflow 7 days before the due date When a later workflow becomes active, the previous workflow can automatically be skipped to avoid duplicate communications. This helps create a cleaner collection process. Next, our auto sends allows workflows to be sent automatically. When enabled, qualifying workflows are processed at 10 a.m. using your database's time zone. This eliminates the need for your users to manually process routine collection notices. Email tags and templates allow you to create the email body and subject. Email tags can be used to automatically insert information from the invoice, the customer, or the job. Some common examples are the customer name, the invoice number, the invoiced amount, and the invoice due. Using personalized communications often improves customer response rates. The final section of the workflow setup is the recipients. This is where you'll define who should receive notifications generated by this workflow. To add a recipient, click the Add Row button, and you can add as many recipient rows as needed. Let's start with the recipient type. There are currently 2 recipient types available. We have employee and job contact. The employee recipient option is used when you want to send notifications to a specific internal employee, such as Accounts Receivable, Accounting Manager, or a Project Coordinator. To add an employee recipient, select the employee option. And then next, in the recipient field, you'll click the Select Hyperlink. A pop-up window will appear displaying the employee selection screen. From here, you can use the grid view to search for and locate the desired employee. Once you found the employee, click Select and they will be added as the workflow recipient. The next field is Method. The method determines which contact method will be used when sending the notification. At this time, workflow notifications are sent using email, so only email contact method types will be available for selection. It's important to understand the contact method selected here must also exist on the employee's contact record. For example, if I select work email as the contact method, the employee must have a work email contact method configured on their employee record. If that contact method does not exist, the workflow notification will not be able to send successfully. The second type is job contact. Unlike employee recipients, the job contact recipient is more dynamic and pull contact information directly from the job file. Examples include the job customer, the invoice customer, the project manager, or even the estimator. It's important to understand the difference between job customer and invoice customer. The job customer is the customer assigned to the job record itself, while the invoice customer is the customer associated with the specific invoice being processed. For relationship-based contacts such as project manager or estimator, those contacts must be assigned on the job file under the relationship screen. If the relationship is missing, the workflow notification will not be able to send successfully. The same contact method rules apply to job contacts. Whatever contact method you select, the method field must exist on the recipient's record. For example, if I use home email as the contact method for the customer or the contact associated with this workflow, the recipient must have a home email contact method configured. If the selected contact method does not exist, the workflow will fail to send, and the failure will be recorded in the workflow history. This flexibility allows you to notify internal staff, customers, or job-related contacts automatically, helping ensure the right people receive the right communication at the right time. As a best practice, verify all of the required employee, customer, and job relationship records contain the appropriate contact types before enabling the auto send for workflows. This will help reduce failed notifications and ensure workflow communications are delivered successfully. Now that we've reviewed the workflow setup, let's discuss collection strategy. Many organizations find success using a structured collection process. For example, 7 days before the due date, send a friendly reminder. On the due date, send a payment reminder. 15 days after the invoice is overdue, send a past due notice. And then 30 days, send an escalation notice. 45 days overdue, you would begin a formal collection review. Rather than treating each workflow independently, think of them as a complete collection journey. The goal is to consistently communicate with customers while escalating appropriately as invoices age. Managing due workflows. We're going to navigate to receivables and due workflows. This screen serves as the central hub for workflow activity. As you can see, our grid view is available and all of our grid view features to customize your view are present. Additionally, we have options to drill down into the invoice, the customer record, and the job file. Now let's review each tab. The New tab contains workflow items that have met the criteria for a workflow and are ready to be processed. From here, users can choose to send the workflow communication, skip the workflow, or assign one of our special statuses. Here we can see an invoice is currently waiting to be processed. I'll select the Send, and the workflow is sent. The system will generate an email using the workflow template we configured earlier, and it sends it to the appropriate recipients. Once the email has been successfully sent, the workflow is automatically moved to the Sent tab. It's important to understand that any action taken from the New tab will move the workflow to another tab. Whether you send it, skip it, or assign it a special status, the workflow is considered processed and will no longer remain in the New queue. As a best practice, workflow items should not remain in the New tab for extended periods. Each workflow should be reviewed and processed according to your organization's collection strategy to ensure timely customer communication. If you're using the auto send, much of this process becomes automated. Workflows configured with auto send are processed automatically each day at 10 a.m. based on your company's time zone. This helps ensure collection notices are sent consistently and on schedule without requiring the manual intervention, allowing your team to focus on invoices that require additional attention. The Sent tab displays communications that have already been delivered. Here we can see our status is now a hyperlink and displays the sent. I can click it and I can see the history of this workflow. Users can see and review previous activity. They can resend the communication. They could skip it to remove it from the queue, or they can change it to a special status. The Skip tab contains workflow items that were intentionally bypassed. If circumstances changed, the skipped workflows can be processed later. Every workflow action is tracked. It's either tracked in the History button or in the Status. I can click the status and we can see every transaction or action that was taken on the workflow. Next, we'll review our Completed tab. When an invoice is fully paid, the associated workflows are automatically moved to the Completed tab. Users cannot manually mark workflows completed. Completion only occurs when a payment is received against that invoice. But what happens if a payment is then reversed due to insufficient funds? It's important to understand what happens when a payment associated to an invoice that had a workflow that triggered is reversed. If the invoice is paid, the workflow is completed. However, if that payment is later unposted or returned, the workflow becomes active again and can continue through the collection process. This ensures collection activity accurately reflects the invoice status. Exception management and special statuses. The next three tabs represent invoices that have been assigned one of the available special statuses. These statuses are designed for invoices that require a different collection process than your standard workflow. When an invoice is assigned a special status, it is moved into the corresponding tab. From there, the status can be changed or cleared at any time, allowing the invoice to resume its normal workflow process if needed. For example, suppose a customer has agreed to a payment plan. You can assign the invoice to the payment plan status, which pauses all automated collection reminders while the customer is making their scheduled payments. If the customer later misses a payment, you can simply clear the payment plan status. The invoice will return to the appropriate workflow status, such as new, allowing you to continue your collection process without having to recreate any workflows. Let's look at each available status. The collection status is typically used when an invoice has entered your organization's formal collection process. Once assigned, the invoice is removed from the standard workflow queue, allowing your collections team to manage the customer communication outside of the automated workflow process. The in legal status is intended for invoices that have been escalated for legal review or legal action. Assigning this status ensures that no additional automated reminders are sent while the matter is being handled. The payment plan status is used when a customer has agreed to an alternative payment arrangement. While the payment plan remains active, automated workflow reminders are paused, allowing the customer to follow the agreed payment schedule without receiving additional collection notices. It's important to note and to understand how these statuses affect workflow processing. When an invoice is assigned a status of collections, in legal, or payment plan, all workflow activity for that invoice is paused. This includes any workflow that is currently due, as well as any future workflow steps that would normally be generated. This helps prevent customers from receiving automated or manual reminders while the invoice is being managed through a different collection process. If the special circumstance is resolved, simply clear the status by going to Statuses and choosing to clear the status. The invoice will return to the appropriate workflow tab and your collection process continue where it left off. Now let's talk about the ignore workflow. For customers that should never participate in AR workflows, the ignore workflow option is available. I've navigated to the customer's record, I've gone into the detail tab, and I've checked ignore workflows. This can be useful for those internal companies, strategic accounts, or customers with a unique billing arrangement. Before we wrap up, I'd like to spend a few minutes discussing an exciting enhancement currently under development, our AI agent. While AR workflows help automate email communications and collection processes today, many organizations still spend a significant amount of time making collection calls, requesting payment updates, and documenting customer conversations. AI Agent is being designed to help automate some of these activities. The vision is simple. Instead of requiring your accounting team to make every collection call manually, AI Agent could assist by contacting customers on your behalf, gathering payment information, and documenting those results and the conversations in your job file. For example, imagine an invoice reaches 30 or 45 days overdue. Rather than assigning a team member to contact the customer, AI agent could initiate the outreach, request a payment update, and provide a summary of interaction back to your team. Potential future capabilities may include automated customer outreach, payment status updates, collection call summaries, follow-up recommendation, and give you improved visibility into the collection activity, and even receive payment. It's important to note that the AI agent is currently under development and isn't available at this time. As development continues, we'll share additional information regarding functionality, availability, and implementation options. While AR Workflows provides the foundation for automated collections today, the AI agent represents an exciting vision for future accounts receivable automation. Today we reviewed how AR Workflows can help automate and standardize your collection process. We discussed the workflow setup, workflow management, various collection strategies, how to handle exemptions, and how the AI agent can assist with customer follow-up activities. For organizations just getting started, I recommend implementing a simple workflow structure consisting of a reminder before the due date, a due date notice, 15-day overdue reminder, a 30-day overdue escalation. That's going to provide a strong foundation that can expand as your collection processes mature. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy using the AR Workflows and Proven Accounting. If you have additional questions, please email us at support@canmsys.com.